If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman, and this show is brought to you by Audible.com. You go to audibletrial.com/Opperman Report. You sign up for free. You can sign up tonight for free, and you can start downloading free audiobooks tonight. If this is your first time listening to this show, we welcome you. Welcome to our show. Check out OppermanReport.com. Okay, we have a lot of other content on there. There's a banner at the top we just added where you could subscribe to our Ed Opperman YouTube channel that we're trying to build back up thanks to Sean Duff from the band Strawman. By the way, he has an event coming up. We did a show with Strawman and Sean Duff. It's on the Spreaker channel. Check that out because he had a concert coming up and he has a new album coming out, a new single coming out called Bones, coming out on September 1st. So check that out. But Sean Duff, our webmaster, he put up a banner up there where you can subscribe to the YouTube channel. And it's just working like gangbusters. Thank you so much, Sean. But also, to check out on OperaReport.com, the members section. We have our members section there with exclusive content that doesn't air on any stations for a few months. It goes on there first, and you can get a hold of it. We got a big show. I'll make a bunch of announcements about the stuff going on there during the after show. Tonight, thank God, we have with us a real, I want to say hero, or like a real hero of mine, Daniel Hopsicker from Mad Cow Morning News. And I mentioned this the first time that I had him on the show. I was so happy to get him on the first time, that here's a guy whose work is so respected, because I talk about him all the time to other guests and other hosts and stuff, that I believe he deserves a Pulitzer Prize for some of his work that he's done on the 9/11 topic with the, what are those books called? Let me pull it up here. About Mohamed Atta and the Flying Circus. What is this? Anyway, scroll down here and find his books. Oh, no, I didn't do that correctly. Oh, great. Well, one is Welcome to the... Barry. Barry and the Boys is one, and the other one is Welcome to the Terrorland. But Daniel, are you there?
Hey, I'm here, Ed. How are you?
Very good. And his website is Mad Cow Morning News. But real quick, I didn't put in your bio correctly in the thing. I'm going to have to fix that. But tell us about your books real quick. Welcome to the Terrorland and Barry and the Boys.
Well, they've been out there for a while, so there's not a whole lot to say. I did a book. I did the book about Barry Seal, Barry and the Boys, and there's a movie coming out in a little over a year. And from what I understand from people who've seen the screenplay, it's based on my book. Although nobody's got in touch with me to buy the rights, so that'll be probably pretty interesting going forward, because I'll probably be suing these guys.
Yeah, that's right. Wait, who's going to star in that movie? I heard about that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big
Tom
star
Cruise.
in it. Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Spent 90 minutes talking to the director,
Right.
who I looked up online before he called, and found out that he's just pretty universally disliked in Hollywood. And then when I spoke to him, I completely understood why, because he's one of these guys who, when he walks into a room, immediately assumes he's the smartest guy there.
Right.
And he's a smart guy, but he's by no means that smart. And so, not a lot to say about that. It's not going to be the movie that we'd all want to see, because the big news in Burying the Boys is that, unlike what they've told us about Barry Seal, he was assassinated in 1986, not by the Medellin cartel, but by a group of hitmen sent from Colombia who all told their attorneys in Miami when they were convicted of murder that while they're in the U.S. they'd been directed by an anonymous U.S. military officer that they very quickly figured out was Oliver North. And Barry Seal's attorney told me that he was on the phone with Barry and Vice President George Bush 10 days before Seal was assassinated, where when Barry Seal threatened Bush with revealing the Contra cocaine scheme unless Bush fulfilled the agreement that Seal thought he had with Vice President George Herbert Walker Bush. And Seal's attorney told me that he thought that was clearly the reason Barry Seal was assassinated. And yet when I spoke to the director and screenwriter of the upcoming movie, they both emphasized that they were going to leave the who had killed Barry Seal. It was going to be left ambiguous.
Oh, brother.
Which is like the cheesiest thing I could possibly. I mean, at this late date, okay, to make another bullshit movie about drug smuggling in America is criminal, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I can see, and so it's going to perpetuate the fiction that that Americans have nothing to do with the drug business, that drugs just show up in our country and are peddled by sleazy-looking illegal aliens, and then the money goes back to cartel jefes in Mexico who wear bandoliers strapped across their naked chests, with bullets in them, and that is just so far from the truth that it's probably the biggest lie that there is. So that's the story about Burying the Boys in the movie. And when 9/11 happened, I was waiting for Burying the Boys to come out. And 2 days after 9/11, it came out. But really, when something happens and they have to tell the truth about it or put it out, you can tell if they don't want to be doing it because it just dribbles out. It doesn't come out with any emphasis. And the fact is that 3 of the 4 terrorist pilots had made Venice, Florida, their base of operations, or had learned to fly here. And the whole terrorist cadre had based their operations in Venice, Florida. And the thing about that was that my parents retired in Venice, Florida, back in the early 80s. And I spent my business lifetime out in Los Angeles. And I'd fly in to see them almost every winter, spend 3, 4, 5 nights with Mom and Dad. And if by the third or fourth night I was here, I was restless enough to have to go out and get a beer, there was no place to go, and there was nothing to do, because as I later found out once I came down to investigate 9/11, Venice, Florida has the second oldest population in the entire United States. And so why would terrorists in their late 20s and early 30s, especially if they only had a year to live, ever come to Venice, Florida, especially since there's 220 flight schools in Florida alone. The reason given, which is another lie, as big a lie as leaving Barry Seal's assassination ambiguous, the reason given was that flight schools in the U.S. are cheaper than anywhere else, which is not true. And even if it were true, at Hub Aviation, Marwan al-Shehi and Mohamed Atta and a couple of the other guys that came here paid $26,000 for training that typically costs $6,000. So I hadn't heard anything about any of the terrorists having a fetish for blue-haired widows. And since Venice has the second oldest population in the entire United States, something else must have been the case. And sure enough, I came here, and then I did something that I'm proud of, and it's probably unprecedented. I sat on an active CIA operation for the next half dozen years, 4 or 5 years, while I investigated what was going on. Because kind of the interesting thing is like, it doesn't matter if you're on to them. It doesn't matter to them. It just doesn't. You'd think they'd like moved out of town immediately. No, nothing like that happened. I once talked to a friend of mine out in Newport Beach, where I used to live, who had spent a lifetime working for the NSA. In fact, he was around when they created the NSA. Nice guy, older guy. When I met him, he was retired. He told me he was retired. He wasn't really. And I called him up one time when I'd made some major discovery, and I said, I almost used his name. I am Dick. I suppose I can use his first name. I said, Dick. I said, how come I can find? I know I'm smart, but I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. How come I'm able to find this stuff out without hardly any trouble? And what he said kind of deflated me, but I think it's true. He said, because they don't bother to hide it. They don't even bother to hide it because news is only what they say it is, or only what the networks and the New York Times and Washington Post say it is, and none of those guys are gonna report anything like that's too sensitive. So I can find out what I want to find out, and I'm only doing this for me. I mean, I'm happy to share what I find out with anyone that wants to know. But I discovered at a certain point when I was investigating Barry Seal, I shot a 2-hour documentary before I wrote the book, and at a certain point I started getting death threats. And the only time in my life I got death threats, it's pretty spooky when it happens to you. I did, I think, probably what anyone else would do in that situation. I kind of stared at myself in the mirror and said, what are you doing, boy? What are you doing? And I discovered about myself that I had kind of this burning ambition to, at some point before I shuffle off this mortal coil, have some vague idea of what the hell was going on while I was alive. And that's why I do what I do. I want to know what I'm not supposed to know. And, because I think we should all know. So that's kind of like it. That's me in a nutshell, dude. Yeah, my website, by the way, is madcowprod, PROD.com. I never bothered to make it a little easier to find, but people that want to find me pretty much find me anyway. So that's it. That's what I do. That's why I do what I do. And so you wanted to talk about Adnam and Khashoggi.
Yeah, before we get to that, though, quick question about why do you think they went to Florida? You think they felt they had a safe haven down there?
Dude, there was a CIA operation running out of Venice, Florida.
Right.
Or maybe it was an NSA operation. These guys don't tell me. There was a covert operation of the government of the United States of America running in Venice, Florida, Tampa, Florida, Naples, Florida, up and down the Gulf Coast. And all you need to know to figure that out is that in 1998, there were no Arabs learning to fly in South Florida. Maybe they were like 4 or 5. In 1999, as you get into 2000, there were hundreds. Hundreds! Huffman Aviation, the outfit with the blue awning, that we all saw after 9/11,
yeah,
had 800 foreign pilots running through there in 2001, and 600 of them were Arabs. So clearly, I'll speculate at this point, but it was obviously an attempt by the U.S. to do something they had claimed they had been unable to do at that point, which was to infiltrate pilots into bin Laden's organization. And bin Laden's organization was the first major Arab drug cartel.
Oh, really? Bin Laden was smuggling drugs too?
That's if Mohamed Atta worked for Osama bin Laden, and he said he did, then that's what they were doing. Because the other indisputable, I mean, the thing I found out down here when I came down to Venice, Florida, which should have been on all three networks, was that 3 weeks after Mohamed Atta arrived to attend flight school at Huffman Aviation in Venice, a Learjet belonging to the owner of the flight school was busted on a runway of Orlando Executive Airport by DEA agents with submachine guns who found 43 pounds of heroin on board. That's an indisputable fact. And it puts everything in a different perspective immediately. I mean, if the New York Times had run with that once, I mean, and it's in black and white. There's just, the owner of the plane, Wally Hilliard, owned the flight school. And that plane had made 39, it wasn't by an accident, it had made 39 weekly runs to Colombia and Venezuela and back, which were paid for by the Arab renters of the plane, each time with cash. If you own a plane in South Florida and you rent your plane to Latin males for cash, you're not going to have that plane.
Wait, you said there were Latin males or Arab males?
Latin males.
Oh, Latin males, okay. All right, then now the last time we talked, because right at the end of the interview, I asked you, well, then who do you think was, if you're telling me that it was an intelligence, a U.S. intelligence operation to set up these, which I think is undoubtable, all these flight schools and the pilots, blah, 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 till and infinitum. It was totally controlled, right? Now, but then at the end of the interview, I said, well, who do you think then what happened on 9/11? And you said you thought it was just like the public story was, that 19 hijackers with box cutters did it.
Yeah, because I can't believe myself, and I've seen no evidence, although there are indications.
Okay.
I've seen no evidence proving otherwise. Look, I don't yield to anyone in my dislike for George W. Bush.
Yeah.
I think he was the worst president in American history. We're still suffering the effects of his administration in more ways than we can really count. And yet, if you were to tell me that George W. Bush was a child molester, I would ask you for proof. And if you didn't have proof, I wouldn't talk to you anymore.
Okay.
Because you can't make allegations like that, serious allegations that you can't back up. And my feeling is that what they say happened. The terrorists weren't here. We were double crossed. I mean, the CIA can be double crossed.
Okay.
I think it happens all the time. If you were to insinuate that these terrorists were here to carry out some nefarious plan by our government, that would have made 9/11 an inside job, hey, fine. Show me the proof. Nobody's got the proof. Okay.
Now, just to tidy up some of the stuff from the last interview as well. And by the way, I really encourage everybody to go back and listen to that last interview, okay? What we did with Daniel Hopsicker. It's up on YouTube, the Ed Opperman YouTube channel. It's up on the Spreaker channel. You know what? I'll even put it at the bottom of this Opperman Report blog. But now, we never got a chance to talk about Mohamed Atta's stripper girlfriend. Now, give us a quick update on that. What's going on with that? Have you heard from her?
No, I haven't talked to her in 10 years.
Oh my God! What do you think happened to her?
Last I heard, she was working in a PX at Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
Again, I'm not going to speculate with you about something I can't. I know Mohamed Atta had an American girlfriend. I know her name was Amanda Keller. I know everything she told me was true. I know because in 2006 the FBI put out a terror alert in the South Pacific and did a manhunt to hunt down a man who Amanda Keller had told me was Mohamed Atta's best friend while they were in Florida together. He's a German national by the name of Wolfgang Boehringer. And if Amanda Keller had not been telling the truth, the FBI would not have been scouring the South Pacific for Wolfgang Boehringer, but they were. And when they found him, I know from someone who was there who heard about it as soon as they found him, Wolfgang Boehringer immediately went from being a 3 in the FBI's level of interest to being an 8. Because what Boehringer said when they arrested him was, "You can't arrest me. I'm with the CIA."
Really?
Yep. So, there you go.
Okay. Now, one more question for you. And again, I got to encourage everybody to buy these books, to the 2 books, and also to go back and listen to the first interview, and also the interviews with this woman. He filmed with Mohamed Atta's girlfriend. He filmed these interviews. They're on YouTube still, aren't they?
Yeah. Under, what's my Daniel Hopsicker?
Yeah.
They're there. And I mean, people steal my stuff all the time and post it to YouTube. I rarely do anything about it. It's just probably the more people see it, the better.
Yeah, that's what I think too. But the thing is, because people steal my stuff, and they get more hits than me. How do they do that? You think it would be my channel?
That's another story.
Yeah.
That's another story. After 9/11, when I came down here, I did probably 100, 150 stories, each of them with startling information, breaking news that should have been on the front page of the New York Times, and I found that my stories were like ripped off, republished, and the people republishing them got way more hits than I did, because I didn't know how to I'm a one-man band, dude.
Yeah, me too.
I wasn't web savvy enough to stop them from doing it.
And now, which I guess that kind of explains another question I had for you, is that the work you've done on this is unparalleled. The examination into the flight schools and the flight records, the airline records, and finding the girlfriend, all that stuff. But yet, it's kind of no one hardly even knows about this work. They're all talking about pods under planes and all this other stuff,
Well, that's a good thing. That's why I'm alert, awake, and alive. Okay, because bad things only happen to you when your name is Dorothy Kilgallen and you're a national columnist, and you come down and you interview Jack Ruby in Dallas, and you're going to break the Kennedy assassination wide open, and then you die. So the fact that I love America, dude. I mean, in many ways, it's just a terrible time to be alive here. But they don't kill you unless they have to, and they don't have to, okay? Because people like me, and there's a few others, but not many.
If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Are not allowed big enough platform.
Yeah.
to make news.
Yeah, I hear you with that too. Now, so, and all this work you've done with the aviation, and how'd you get into all this aviation research? Are you a pilot yourself, or was it from Barry Seal days?
Totally by mistake. I mean, I'm not a pilot. I had to look all this stuff up, and and it takes a long time to learn, how this stuff works. But once you've learned it, what you know is that agencies of the U.S. government that you think are protecting you, like the FAA,
right,
are like the SEC, which we found out in 2008 wasn't protecting us from the biggest ripoff in financial history, and the FAA isn't either. The FAA is probably, in my opinion, and this is just an opinion, is probably the most corrupt organ of the United States government. Totally in the pocket of the CIA.
And these smugglers, too, as well, because you describe how they change ownership to the plane, they put them up for sale or something like that.
Easiest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Because of the antiquated, and it's deliberate, okay?
Yeah.
When you find something that, makes no sense, actually, Wally Hilliard's accountant told me this, and it's always resonated. He said, when things don't make business sense, he said sometimes it's because they do make sense just in some other way.
All right.
So the way any cop that pulls over in a 10-year-old Volkswagen knows more about who owns that car than the FAA knows about who owns a $40 million Gulfstream flying in and out of the country all the time. And that's not by accident, that's by design.
Right. Now, and we're coming close to a break. Now, well, why don't you describe how that works again? Because I learned it from you that they put up for sale, right? Is that how they do it?
Well,
yeah.
Here, briefly.
Yeah.
Say you and I want to smuggle drugs. Just for instance, okay? A hypothetical. All right, I've got an in with a guy down in Colombia, and you've got a plane.
Right.
Okay, that can fly down there. So I come to you and I go, hey, dude, I got this proposition. Let's go for it. And you go, but I don't want to lose my plane. And I go, oh, well, you don't have to. You sell the plane to me. I don't give you any money. All you do is give me a bill of that you sold the plane to me, which I hold. And then if everything goes as it's supposed to, meaning if we're authorized to do it, afterwards, I just tear up the paperwork and you got your plane plus a nice chunk of whatever I made, by flying drugs into the U.S. and nobody's the wiser. It's only when something goes wrong and the plane gets caught that, and that's what happened to this the plane that I've been following for the last 9 years now. A DC-9 from St. Petersburg went down to Colombia, came back, got busted in the Yucatan with 5.5 tons of cocaine. American-owned, American-registered. 3 days later, 3 days after it was arrested, they faxed in change of ownership to the FAA, who never questioned it.
Wow.
Exactly. Those are all you need to know about who owned that plane.
Yeah, because it's impossible. Because if you had an apartment full of drugs, and you try to, oh, well, look, I got this lease. It's not mine anymore. So
yeah, and see, that's what I'm on about. Okay.
Yeah.
I've spoken to, I've spoke to the guy who I believe is in charge of aviation for the CIA in South Florida, and I said, dude, I don't care that the CIA smuggles drugs. I said, I'd rather you guys be in charge of it than some whacked out, South American drug lord, who worships Adolf Hitler. Mm-hmm. Okay? I said, but if you're going to do it, you've got a moral obligation to the 2 million people that are in prison for selling small amounts of what you're bringing in by the ton. And I said, those 2 million, almost all guys, I said, those 2 million guys may be scummy, maybe scumbags. I don't know. I'm sure a lot of them are. I said, but you know what? they've all got moms. And I know how my mom would feel if I went to prison. So the human misery that's caused by the hypocrisy of this phony drug war is beyond measure. And the guys making this Tom Cruise movie about Barry Seal are contributing to it by not telling the truth.
I got you, brother. Okay, we're going to take our commercial break right now. We're here with, I keep wanting to call you Barry Seal. We're with Daniel Hopsicker, and he's the author of these books, Barry and the Boys, The CIA, The Mob, and America's Secret History. Then Welcome to the Terrorland, Mohamed Atta, and the 9/11 cover-up in Florida. And his recent documentary, The New American Drug Lords, is in its 6th season on America's Secret History. Now, there's links to both of those books on the Opperman Report, blogspot.com. We'll be right back after these messages. And don't forget Daniel or Barry, I'll call you from now on. If we talk during the commercials, the audience will hear us. So we got to kind of mute up. We'll be right back after this with more of Daniel Hopsicker. And now, a word from our sponsors. Pacific West Bamboo, your premier source for sustainable building material. They provide construction-grade and craft-grade bamboo material for all your indoor, outdoor, and gardening needs. Contact them for event planning and display building as well. 503-839-8126. Or you go to their new website, pacificwestbamboo.com. Or you can contact them on Facebook at Pacific West Bamboo. That's 503-839-8126. Amanda from Pacific West Bamboo was our first sponsor. She's been so good to us, so please support her in return. I want to make everybody aware of our new members section at www.oppermanreport.com. You can go there and sign up for a monthly, quarterly, or yearly subscription. You can even purchase episodes one by one. You get full access to brand new original content, new guests, new uncensored interviews, my own investigations and reports, and we're going to be adding sections with documents, images, police reports, either provided by myself or by my guests, or for my own investigations, my own reports. So you can go to oppermanreport.com and you can sign up there tonight. You can start listening tonight. Strawman. I want to mention Strawman. Strawman is a band out of Toronto, Canada. They're good friends of the Opperman Report. They're a trio of guys who share the same mindset most of us here do, and they put that energy into their words and music. So check them out at strawmanmusic.com and drop them a line to let them know that you heard them here on the Opperman Report. We'll be doing an interview with Sean Duffy soon. You can get an autographed copy of my book, How to Succeed as a Private Investigator, by visiting my PI website, emailrevealer.com. We also offer a computer and cell phone forensics. We can recover deleted text messages to uncover infidelity. We offer asset searches, locates, email tracing, background reports, and we can even trace your spouse's email address back to internet dating websites to catch them cheating online. You can reach us at 800-572-9762, or you can email me at emailrevealer@aol.com. New World Mexican Women. Everyone loves the New World Mexican Women, and their line of fine, handcrafted, authentic Mexican jewelry of stone mosaic and abalone stone inlay. In their first book, titled New World Mexican Women. Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator. The show is brought to you by Audible.com. You go to audibletrial.com/Opperman Report. We had a little crash there, guys. Speaker crashed there. The Adobe Flash shut down on me. But we're back on the air now. So, Daniel, I guess how did you discover in your life Adnam Khashoggi, which I think he's pivotal to so many things we discuss here. And even when I mentioned him to other researchers and other investigators, other radio hosts, they've never even heard of him. They don't even know what I'm talking about.
Are you talking about Adnam Khashoggi?
Yeah.
Well, he's been a CIA asset since the 70s.
Okay.
He was up to his neck in pretty much every scandal for like 30 years. Back in the 70s, there was something called the Lockheed scandal, and he was implicated in that. And then in the 80s, he was implicated in the Iran-Contra scandal. He was the conduit for the money. I became aware of his involvement with the people in Venice and 9/11 after 9/11, when I went to the first international conference about 9/11. It was in San Francisco, and when I got out there, I was disgusted by what I saw. I mean, there were people peddling every conspiracy theory imaginable with no proof whatsoever, and I thought, what a disservice to the dead people and their families that this is. And I refused to appear anymore at those dog and pony shows. But the next one was in Toronto, and a buddy of mine, a German writer, who went, discovered that it had been funded by a guy who you wouldn't think would be involved in anything to do with 9/11, John Gray. Calls himself Dr. John Gray. He's not a doctor of anything. Who wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus.
Right.
And I went, how odd that is. And when I looked into it, and you can find these stories on my website by doing for a search on Khashoggi there. He was an employee, maybe still is an employee, but was certainly then an employee of Adnam Khashoggi, who bought his book. I mean, everybody's heard of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Sold like 15 zillion copies. When Adnam Khashoggi bought John Gray and his book, it was a flop. It had been out for almost a year and sold almost no copies. And through the graces of somebody associated probably with the CIA, and then Khashoggi made that book #1 international bestseller, and John Gray got rich. So when I found out that John Gray was funding the Toronto 9/11 conference in 2000, 10 years ago, 2004, I found out Adnam Khashoggi was behind him, and why would Adnam Khashoggi want to fund something on 9/11? And then, the bells started ringing in my head, ding, ding, ding. Disinformation. Disinformation. At just about the time, because it took me, I came down, to Venice at 4 months after 9/11, and 2 years later, when I had gotten my feet underneath me and really began to know what was going on, the internet was flooded with I don't know if you're allowed to say bullshit on radio,
Actually, we're not. More people will listen if we keep it clean.
Then I'm sorry I did. Yeah. It was flooded with crud.
Yeah.
And there were no planes at the Pentagon. There were explosives in the World Trade Center. In fact, it hadn't even been blown up. It was all a hologram. Blah, 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 blah. And it's disinformation designed to trap people, I think, probably without strong minds. And there's a whole generation of people like that because they weren't ever taught to think for themselves now. So it was, that's what happened. So Khashoggi, he funded the 9/11 conference. Why would he want to do that? He, at about the same time, planes belonging to the owner of the Huffman Aviation, Wally Hilliard, were flying for Khashoggi. Khashoggi was at that time involved in a war. I don't know if it got to the shooting war standard, but it was close, for control of a tiny little island on the backside of the Bahamas called Rum Cay that had just gotten a 5,000-foot runway, which meant a twin-engine plane flying from South America could land there, refuel, and take off and fly to the U.S. Khashoggi wanted to build a casino there. basically he wanted control of the runway, and there was another group that was opposing him, and there were planes being torched on the runway, and all kinds of stuff going on. And Wally Hilliard's had a Learjet that was flying over there for Khashoggi, and then Wally Hilliard was charged, along with Rudy Deckers, with unauthorized charters for Saudi nationals. And I don't imagine anything ever came to that. But he had been flying Saudi princes around the U.S. without filing flight plans, and without letting anyone know that's what he was doing after 9/11. Okay, after supposedly, the biggest FBI investigation in history, 6,000 agents, blah 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 blah. Here 3 years later, it turns out he's flying Saudi princes and people associated with Khashoggi around the U.S.
with no paperwork.
No paperwork.
Now,
where
are they today? Where are Hilliard and Deckers? Where are they today?
Deckers is in prison.
Oh, really? For what?
Yeah, he was convicted of 2 years ago of drug trafficking in Houston, and he's in prison unless they've let him out for probably another couple of years. And Wally Hilliard is the interesting guy. Wally Hilliard was a bogus health insurance executive, owned a company in Green Bay, Wisconsin, which got rich through through buying up insurance policies that other companies found to be unprofitable, and making them profitable through the simple expedient of not paying claims. Okay?
Now it's
all of
funny,
this stuff you've been hearing since Clinton was president about getting rid of health insurance. He's who they wanted to get rid of. Those guys who inserted themselves as middlemen in the American health insurance industry and in the American medical field. So he gets rich. At the age of 65, he retires to Florida. My dad retired to Florida, but younger than 65. And normally when you retire to Florida, the first thing you do is, if you're a guy, is you buy yourself some lime green golf pants and a matching golf sweater, and you start playing golf. And what Wally Hilliard did when he retired to Florida was he purchased 2 flight schools and bought between 30 and 40 jets, which then began flying all over the world. And he didn't know where they were.
Well, do you think he was the brains behind this, or he was just like a front guy?
He's front guy.
Front guy.
Front man. I mean, Rudy Deckers was a Dutch national, perfect to front the flight school for him because they use foreign nationals that way. And Wally Hilliard was a retired insurance executive from Green Bay, Wisconsin, who was ever going to question him. He was an interesting character too. I met him.
Oh, really?
Finally, interviewed him. He had was wearing a gray cashmere golf sweater with the logo of the Augusta National Country Club in Augusta, Georgia, whose longtime president was Jackson Stevens from Arkansas, who you've read about in a million different places. And he, whenever I would accuse him of being responsible for something, and there was a ton he was responsible for, he disclaimed responsibility. He told me he had been victimized by unscrupulous employees, which is a good line, which is a good line.
Do you have that on video, that interview?
No,
Oh,
no.
okay.
I was lucky that they didn't throw me. I showed up. I showed up, unannounced, and walked in on a meeting, and that's what happened.
Did he know who you were?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God! I tell you, man.
somebody's writing about you every week for 2 years, you're going to know.
You got balls, man. Okay, walk right into a den of, you might call them smugglers, just walk right in, huh? All right. So tell us, now, why do you think Khashoggi wanted his own island with his own airstrip on there down in the Caribbean?
I can only speculate. There's no need to even do that. I mean, the answer is obvious.
Yeah.
The answer is obvious. But 2 years later, Khashoggi had a henchman named Rami al-Batrawi, who had been involved with Barry Seal.
Oh, really?
In fact, Barry Seal's attorney, after Seal was murdered, had incorporated for Rami al-Batrawi a company that he and Khashoggi used in a financial scam to steal $300 million. And not only that, but this Khashoggi henchman had supplied one of the two DC-9s that was used by a company in St. Petersburg, Florida, in their drug smuggling efforts. And not only that, but the two of them were involved with two other guys, one of whom has ties to Israeli intelligence, and the second of whom, a guy by the name of Stephen Adams, a fantastically rich media owner in the Midwest who's very secretive. And they used their three companies in what was called Stock Walk. You can find out, just type Stock Walk into and it was a $300 million scam. And what I discovered was that when I find drug trafficking, officially sanctioned drug trafficking, that's not all I find. It's typically paired with pretty much massive financial crime. So when Wally Hilliard was at some point forced to sell Huffman Aviation because it becomes something of a liability, hopefully due to my efforts in some small part, he sold it to a guy named Art Nadel, Nadel, who went out and perpetrated a $400 million financial scam that hardly anyone heard about, because when he got caught, Bernie Madoff was in the news, and Bernie Madoff's scam was like $60 billion, and Art Nadel's was only $400 million. But he owned Huffman Aviation at the time. So this stuff doesn't happen by accident.
Well, let me back to I forget his name. The one who got arrested for the drugs, the airline owner, the airport owner, the flight school.
Hilliard.
Hilliard. Now, when he got busted for the drugs just 2 years ago, did that make the news?
No, that's Rudy Deckers got busted.
Oh, Rudy Deckers got busted.
And it did make news. It made news in Houston, and it made news on my website and nowhere else.
Okay, yeah.
And in fact, I mean, and if you ever seen an interview done with Wally Hilliard on after 9/11, I mean, the coverage he was given was so fawning, it was disgusting.
Mm.
There's the worst was by a guy who was with CNN at the time, and he's now on Fox News. Bill something. I forget his name, but just he received fawning coverage, as if everything he said was to be taken at face value, as if nobody was blaming him for anything, as if he had nothing to do with anything, and they had just shown up there, and none of that was true.
And didn't Jeb also? So he was sort of a lobbyist too for those flight schools, in some way.
Say what?
Jeb Bush, was he some kind of a lobbyist promoting those flight schools?
You know what? I'm writing about Jeb Bush right now. I hate revisiting this stuff.
Yeah,
and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why, because I blame myself, and I probably shouldn't. I mean, I know I shouldn't, but I blame myself for not being able to get anything I found into the news. It feels like a personal failing to me, and I go back and and it just makes me wince. But a couple of kids in New Hampshire that had me up to speak a couple years ago up there, went to a press conference last week that Jeb Bush gave, and they asked him a question based on Welcome to Terrorland, and so let me tell you that story, and then it'll make his response. Well, when I got to Venice, Florida, I told you I'd been coming down here to see my mom and dad for like 20, 30 years. Never saw a cop in town. Quiet little town, 6,000 people, and they're all old. There's no crime.
Right.
But when I came down to like poke into 9/11, like in January, February of 2002, I got stopped by the police twice the first day I was here. And I'm glad I did, because the second time I got pulled over, they were polite, and they just wanted to know what I was doing here. And there was tension in town was just palpable at that point. That 24-hour surveillance at the airport, like the terrorists were going to come back. If they came back, they were going to pin medals on people around here. They were going to come back and wreak havoc. But the second cop that pulled me over, I said, I told him what I was doing. Investigating 9/11. I asked him if he thought I should, it might be a good idea to check in with the chief, and he allowed that might be a good idea. So I'm glad that happened, because I went down to the Venice Police Department to tell him who I was and what I was doing here. And I didn't speak with the chief. Not at that point. I spoke with the department's communications officer. And I said to him, told him who I was, what I was doing, and I said, I want to know one thing. You can help me with this. Does Rudy Deckers have any local prior arrests? Any local priors? And the guy made a face like he had just swallowed, like half a bottle of castor oil. And he looked at me, and later I found out this guy was known for being honest.
Yeah.
He looked at me and he said, I would love to tell you if Rudy Deckers had any priors, but I can't. He said, because the day after 9/11, the FBI showed up with 2 Ryder trucks, parked right out there, pointed out the window at the parking lot, and they loaded up all of our records. And then they drove the 2 Ryder trucks up to, one of the trucks had all of Huffman Aviation's records. The other ones had all of the files in the Venice Police Department. They didn't copy the files. They confiscated the files. They drove them up to Sarasota Airport. He told me where they were driven onto the back of a C-130 that took off for Washington, D.C. with Jeb Bush on board.
Get the hell out of here.
True story.
That has to be, first of all, unprecedented. Even in the murder of JFK, I don't think if the FBI didn't come down and take the whole Dallas Police Department's police records. But Jeb Bush was on the plane with it, huh?
Yeah. And it's much worse than that.
And that's the question.
So anyway,
go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
These 2 guys asked him that question in the press conference last week in New Hampshire. And then they posted the question and answer to Facebook, and I'm about to do a little story on it, and I'll publish it Sunday or Monday morning at the latest, and it'll have the thing in response. And Bush just sort of he sneered and let's move on. Does anyone have a real? And then he said, I wasn't. How could I was in the emergency commission. They have someplace in Florida where during a hurricane or emergency, they all get together.
Okay.
How could I have been in Washington D.C.? Well, he was. He was, and I hope to get to the bottom of it, because I know he was, because after these guys posted it, they sent it to me, and I didn't want to go back and look at this stuff because it's just too painful. But what I did was I picked up the phone, I called somebody that was on a flight that had told me about it, and sure enough, Jeb Bush was on a flight. He reconfirmed, and the other thing he reconfirmed, and I had never published this because it just was too dispiriting, really. when I first found it out. The plane with the records didn't go to the FBI.
Oh, no.
No. They never made it to the FBI. They went to McLean, Virginia.
So,
home of CIA.
Yeah, CIA would have been, right.
And that's where the records reside. And this past week, I stopped by the Venice Police Department again, and the chief now was a patrolman back then, and I didn't get to see him, but I said, I want to know if you guys ever got your records back. And I haven't heard from them, so I have to assume they didn't.
Now that must mean that people with priors, you get pulled over, they nothing comes up. What happens? So all of that, people with cases, people on probation, what happens to all that stuff?
It is. Researching Barry and the boys, I'd met some pretty interesting people. One of whom was a old guy who had spent his career as a Mississippi state trooper. He's a plantation owner in Mississippi. Probably still had slaves. I don't know. I mean, nice guy. I liked the guy. We got along great. Probably been on the wrong side of every issue since, Prohibition, this guy. Jack Ruby had been an informant of his in the 50s. That's how far this guy went back. But he liked me, and I liked him, and so we kept in touch a little bit. So I came down to Venice, Florida. The first thing I found out was that the two flight schools that had trained terrorists here at the tiny Venice airport, both were owned by Dutch nationals, two separate Dutch nationals who supposedly had nothing to do with each other. So I called this guy. I think he's dead now, so I can use his name. His name was Rex. And I said, Rex, I just found out that, and you remember what it was like after 9/11. Remember the tension that existed everywhere. And,
yeah.
We're all reading the news. And I said, Rex, these flight schools were owned by two separate Dutch nationals. And I said, what do you think about that? And I can't do a Southern accent to save my life, but he had a Southern accent, and he said, well, what? Two Dutch boys owned, that's one Dutch boy too many.
I remember that line. Yeah.
He said, it's untidy.
I remember that.
It's untidy. It's untidy, and it was, and it is. And it is. 14 years after 9/11, it remains untidy. It remains untidy.
Okay, we're going to have to take a break now, okay, because we're at the hour. Time's going really fast. You got great stuff, man. We're here with Daniel Hopsicker, fascinating guy, deserves a Pulitzer Prize. This is the work of a lifetime, a life's work here. His books, Barry and the Boys, The CIA and the Mob, America's Secret History. Welcome to Terrorland. We're talking a little bit about that now. Mohamed Atta and the 9/11 cover-up in Florida. We're talking about Adnam Khashoggi. His website is madcowprod.com. But if you Google Mad Cow Morning News, it'll come up right at the top there. We'll be back after this with more of Daniel Hopsicker. He lived with Barry Seal's widow. He was there in Barry Seal's house there after he was murdered. So this is some real investigative work. Man, if we could just get more of this. If we had 100 people like Daniel Hopsicker out there working, maybe we could make a difference in this world. We'll be right back after these messages. And now, a word from our sponsors. Pacific West Bamboo, your premier source for sustainable building material. They provide construction-grade and craft-grade bamboo material for all your indoor, outdoor, and gardening needs. Contact them for event planning and display building as well. 503-839-8126. Or you go to their new website, pacificwestbamboo.com. Or you can contact them on Facebook at Pacific West Bamboo. That's 503-839-8126. Amanda from Pacific West Bamboo was our first sponsor. She's been so good to us, so please support her in return. I want to make everybody aware of our new members section at www.oppermanreport.com. You can go there and sign up for a monthly, quarterly, or yearly subscription. You can even purchase episodes one by one. You get full access to brand new original content, new guests, new uncensored interviews, my own investigations and reports, and we're going to be adding sections with documents, images, police reports, either provided by myself or by my guests, or for my own investigations, my own reports. So you can go to oppermanreport.com and you can sign up there tonight. You can start listening tonight. Strawman. I want to mention Strawman. Strawman is a band out of Toronto, Canada. They're good friends of the Opperman Report. They're a trio of guys who share the same mindset most of us here do, and they put that energy into their words and music. So check them out at strawmanmusic.com and drop them a line to let them know that you heard them here on the Opperman Report. We'll be doing an interview with Sean Duffy soon. You can get an autographed copy of my book, How to Succeed as a Private Investigator, by visiting my PI website, emailrevealer.com. We also offer a computer and cell phone forensics. We can recover deleted text messages to uncover infidelity. We offer asset searches, locates, email tracing, background reports, and we can even trace your spouse's email address back to internet dating websites to catch them cheating online. You can reach us at 800-572-9762, or you can email me at emailrevealer@aol.com. New World Mexican Women. Everyone loves the New World Mexican Women, and their line of fine, handcrafted, authentic Mexican jewelry of stone mosaic and abalone stone inlay. In their first book, titled New World Mexican Women, available on lulu.com, they teach you how to make this jewelry, and they have a collection of love letters to their men from their hometown that have immigrated to the United States to find work. They have also published a new book entitled Azuquina to the Rodeo. It's about a young girl that falls in love with a rodeo bull rider, and she runs away with him without telling her family. You can find the New World Mexican Women by Googling New World Mexican Women. And you can ask them about their deals on wholesaling their fine jewelry and all of the other projects that they have going on. If you'd like to have your business or website advertised here and promoted all over the world on dozens of stations every day. Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. This show is brought to you by Audible.com. You go to audibletrial.com/Opperman Report. Get yourself a free audiobook. We are here with Daniel Hopsicker. Daniel, real quick, before you got to go. I know you got to go early, right? But what can you tell us about Khashoggi and his connections to Donald Trump?
He had an apartment in Trump Towers, is all I know. I said probably know a little more than that, but I can't remember offhand how much I do know more than that. So, okay. So I'm not going to say anything. Oh, God.
I had heard one thing that when he
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, Khashoggi was wanted
right.
For another scam, financial scam he pulled in Thailand that made a bank go away. He's been wanted internationally probably for a dozen years, and nothing ever seems to happen. And I was told by somebody over in Palm Beach that he was living quite openly and happily at Trump's mansion, Mar-a-Lago, there. And this is a number of years ago now, 5-6 years ago. Where'd you find that out?
I think I found it out from you.
Yeah, I know. It's got to be buried. Got to be buried somewhere, you know, because it's an old story. They all know each other. Okay, I mean, the one thing, this was explained to me one time by a retired U.S. Customs agent in Louisiana who had been tracking Barry Seal for a number of years. And when I found out that one guy, that you know, a couple of guys knew each other that I didn't think would have known each other, he said, you know, that's just the way it is. He says, there aren't that many players out there.
Right.
And so they all know each other. I found that out personally when when I was like a little concerned. I was because I had one more shooting trip to go in Louisiana to finish my documentary, the 2-hour Secret Heartbeat of America that I started out doing about Barry Seal. And I guess I was getting death threats from remnants of the Carlos Marcello organization. I never knew who. But I called this friend of mine. I made friends with this guy when he showed up, because everybody needs a friend, in either the NSA or the CIA or something like it. Somebody that likes you, that might give you a call if you found out something that's like really going to get you in trouble. Might give you a heads up first, So I called this guy who'd become a friend of mine, and I said, I'm kind of scared to go down there. And he said, you're probably right. You're right to be scared. And he said, you need a bodyguard. And I said, I never had a bodyguard. And he said, well, call this guy. Give me his number. And this guy turned out, he did rock star and movie star security for $1,000 a day. And I said, I can't pay you that. I'm mortgage everything I have to finish this documentary. I was stealing money from, I did a business show that it was airing internationally on NBC at the time, and I was stealing money from that to finish this documentary. He said, all right, I'll go down with you for expenses. I said, well, why would you do that? And he said, well, if we get friendly over a beer on the way back, I'll tell you. And he did. He knew Barry Seal. They had both been in special forces together. And so there, that's the way it works. There aren't that many players out there.
Now, yeah, you told me that story the last time you were on, too. Now, what about, didn't Khashoggi, did he testify, or that he admitted someplace publicly that he was donating 10% of all of his earnings to bin Laden?
I don't know if that's true or not. Back in 2003, much better investigative journalist than I am, Seymour Hersh,
right,
had found out that he and a bunch of his Saudi buddies were doing something pretty weird. Oh, they were in business with Richard Pearl, the neocon, who had been one of the guys behind the war in Iraq. And there may have been something about that. I couldn't say. See, dude, I can't just speculate because I get sued regularly.
No, I know, I know.
And when you get sued, there's nothing you can do. I mean, it's like, I had never been sued in my life when I got into this wacky subject area, and then the lawsuits just and every time you get sued, it's like, like you feel like you're on trial for murder. It's like, oh my God, I'm being sued, and they never go anywhere, because they can't get money from you if you don't have money, and I don't. But it's just a big waste of time, and it sort of ties you up for 18 months, and that's what happened to Barry and the boys, dude. I got sued by Barry Seal's attorney, who I probably, I don't know why, everybody in the Seals organization had a certain fine contempt for this guy, because he was always protecting his status as an attorney. He was like their in-house attorney, but if anything, if he was around and anything happened, it was like, oh my God, And so they all kind of made fun of him, okay? And I wrote that up, and so he sued me, and that lawsuit alone kept Barry and the boys from reaching bookstores for almost 5 years after it came out. So imagine what that one guy was able to do just with an off-the-cuff lawsuit. So I don't speculate about things I'm not sure about.
No, I don't blame you. I'm just trying to get confirmation on you different things. Now, how many times have you been sued?
Oh, I think four,
yeah,
maybe 5.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's draining going through court. I just spent the last year and a half in custody court, which thank God I'm out of right now. We did very well, so thank God for that. Well, I know you got to go, okay, but what do you want to leave us with?
A tune? Thanks for the memories. When I'm 64, dude, I just turned 64. I mean, it's bizarre. I'm officially old,
Yeah.
and I could sing when I get older, losing my hair many years from now. I mean, I remember that was many years from now. There's nothing to say. I mean, we're all here. We're all, I'm sure, doing what we can, and it's important to retain a sense of humor, and it's important not to get too whacked out over anything, and to live the best life you can.
Hey, let me ask you this: can you give us a little summary of your work you've been doing on Vince Vaughn and his parents?
No, that's too deep. That's
too long.
That's way into Vince. I'll tell you this though.
Yeah.
Thank God for Vince Vaughn. Okay, because he gave me the ending of my book. I've been investigating these two planes that took off from St. Petersburg in 2006 and 2007, and got busted with a total of 10 tons of cocaine. And their owners, their American owners, never lost a wink of sleep. Okay. Never lost a wink of sleep, thinking that the DA was about to knock on their door. And I hadn't finished the book. I was writing about it because I didn't have a. I didn't completely understand it. I didn't have an ending, and Vince Vaughn gave it to me when he came out a couple months ago. And God knows this, the latest edition of True Stories should have been enough, but I hadn't seen the whole thing, and I didn't know how bad it sucked. Compared to the first year. But anyway, he came out with some controversial comments about gun control. And hey, gun control, there's pros and cons, and, it'll be debated forever. But he had some particularly offensive things to say about the need for guns in schools, okay, which if you're the mom of some dead kid that got killed someplace, that's not going to sit real well. And they were just particularly offensive. And I knew that his mom had been involved in funding the bogus investment bank that became the biggest shareholder in the company that owned the DC-9 bus with 5.5 tons of cocaine. And so I went back and revisited it, and I've just written 3 stories about it. I got another, 2 or 3 left to go. And so I guess now I know what was going on. I finally put it all together, and I've got a good handle on what was going on, and it involves not just Bush administration, but Obama administration. It goes right to Eric Holder, for one thing. So it was an officially sanctioned drug trafficking operation. I don't know how many times you have to say that before people realize it's true, but that's what it was.
So then Obama's up to his neck in this stuff as much as the Bushes and the Clintons.
I wouldn't say Obama. I pulled for Obama. So that's my personal bias. I don't think he made a difference in any serious way. I think he might have tried. I think what the United States needed in 2008 was another Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and we didn't get it. We didn't get it, and we got an attorney general who never saw a banker, never saw a felonious, fraudulent banker that he didn't like, and I know that Eric Holder stepped in and personally kept one person from being charged, a retired FBI agent, in a financial scam that was involved with the one that Vince Vaughn's mom was involved with. So, and Vince Vaughn's mom funded the bogus investment bank in Texas that funded the DC-9 for, being the biggest shareholder in the company in St. Petersburg. So, ba-bing. It's not brain surgery to figure this stuff out. Sometimes it feels like it, but it didn't.
Yeah.
So there, dude. Been a pleasure talking to you.
No, thank you very much, okay?
My pleasure.
And I'll talk to you soon, my friend. God bless you.
All right, take care.
Bye. Okay, there we had Daniel Hopsicker. I guess he's feeling a little bit under the weather or something like that. And I'm having computer troubles tonight like you guys have no idea. Okay, I'm trying to pull up my own blog right now. I can't even do it. Just one thing after another. We had Spreaker freeze up. I can't even tell you how many times tonight during that interview. Just all kinds of problems. But Daniel Hopsicker has done this excellent work about Vince Vaughn. It's a part 1 and a part 2. And it's called True Detective, Chicago, El Chapo, and Vince Vaughn's Mom. And it goes into all this detail here. I wish we could have Daniel a little bit longer. I'm going to try and get him to come down and do a little spot in the members section, hopefully. Unless he's mad at me or something like that, I'm not sure. But anyway, he had to bow out. Okay, so now, anyway, so here I am now, guys. Gonna hold the fort myself for at least another 45 minutes. I might, since if we get some calls, maybe I'll hang out a little bit longer. But we might just drop the show after 2 hours tonight. The number to call in is 702-605-4894. That is 702-605-4894. And you can call in, and we could talk about something here. Now, we were supposed to be doing a show tonight originally. I've been having a Daniel Hopsicker in the wings for the past few weeks. We've been trying to get him on the show. I got to mail him a book, too. Good old Daniel Hopsicker. But we were supposed to do a show about Hugo Pinel, who was just assassinated in California prison the past week. He was one of the San Quentin Six. So you might want to take a look at the Mae Brussels story that she did about the Hugo Pinel and the San Quentin Six way back years and years ago. She actually, when Hugo Pinel first got arrested on the first charge that he got convicted of, she actually went to the courthouse and yelled at his lawyer about the way his court-appointed public defender was doing such a poor job of defending his client. And that lawyer, as a matter of fact, wound up with a bloody lip after a meeting with the Pinel one time in private. He came out, he said, well, nothing happened, but, some lawyers, you meet with them in private, they get a hug. And others come out in private, they get a bloody lip. And this one came out with a bloody lip. So we're going to be rescheduling a show about Hugo Pinel. I was talking to his lawyer today. He couldn't make it tonight. So then, thank God, we got a hold of Daniel Hopsicker at the last minute. He was able to come on and fill in his time for us. Coming up this weekend, I got 3 shows coming up over the weekend, which will be on the Spreaker channel. Saturday night, around 5 or 6 p.m., I'm going to have Doug Millar who's going to come back. And we're going to be filling in some stuff on Ted Gunderson. After that, after I finish with Doug Millar, I'm going to tape a show for the members section with T.H. Johnson. We did the show about O.J. Simpson and about his book and his video called Serpents Rising, the true story behind the O.J. Simpson case, which are fascinating books. Now, me and T.H. Johnson, the last time he was on, we did 6 hours on the air. Went on all night long. And so just recently I had to re-upload all those shows, and I've gotten so many comments about it because people are finding it now for the first time that I contacted him. I said, in fact, I even got an email. Someone said, hey, have him come back and talk about Geronimo Pratt, because he's done a lot of work on the Geronimo Pratt case too, and he has his own theories about Johnny Cochran, who was also involved in the Geronimo Pratt trials and stuff like that. So he has a theory about that. So we're going to be bringing him on to discuss the Geronimo Pratt story and about Johnny Cochran's involvement in that. Now, that's coming up. That's Saturday night at 8 p.m. I'm going to record that. Sunday, we're going to have our good friend Cisco Streetlove is going to come back to the show. And Cisco is going to tell us a situation that just happened to him where I don't know all the details, and we're going to be hearing the details live all together. But you guys know Cisco. He's the author of the book Yesterday's Shame about the Atlanta child murders. And he was on my show with Cynthia McKinney. And Cynthia McKinney loves him, by the way, because I was talking to her today, too. And what do you call it? We're going to have Cisco come back, and he's going to explain the situation, because what happened was he went to the hospital for some reason. He got sick and went to the hospital, and they locked him up, and they wouldn't let him out. And it turns out that I've heard from someone else that some of the people involved in this hospital are involved with some of the people that Cisco is investigating. So he's going to come back on Sunday night. We're going to do a live show with him. I did a show this week with a guy. I keep calling him a young man, but he's really not a young man. He's about 45 years old. And his name is, I'm pulling it up right now, is Anthony Choice Diaz. And he came on, we were going to discuss, he's been doing a lot of research on policing. And he's an activist, he's a historian, he's a scholar from the Bay Area. He's friends with this group with the Pennell and these old Black Panthers and stuff like that. And so when he came on, I says, well, tell us about yourself, like I always do, right? And he starts talking about how he's been researching the state of the movement, and how he's been contacting these old activists, and he's and just trying to put it all together in his head and write about it. So we wound up talking for an hour straight about the state of the movement. And we even mentioned on that we don't even know what to call the movement anymore. We call it, what do you call it, leftist or radicalism or activism? What do you call it? The movement, And so we couldn't even come up to an agreement on that, which is the state of the movement. It was a sad state of affairs, is what I've concluded anyway. But during our conversation, we started discussing Trump and Bernie Sanders. And as you know, I kind of have this feeling. He kind of tried to talk me out of it, but I still feel that it would be a good idea for us to support Bernie Sanders because the people who support Bernie Sanders are sort of like-minded people. They may be, like you said, they're kind of old and they're kind of white, but so am I, and so is Daniel Hopsicker, And no matter what, these are still people that are leaning left, and they're leaning in the right direction, and that hopefully we could take these people and we can organize them, because Bernie Sanders is never going to get in there, but by a miracle, we get into the president's office. But at least we would have this base, and we would have this base organized, and we could take these people. Maybe someday we get them and the Ron Paul people together, and some of the less wacky Trump people, and we really get something going in this country. So that was Anthony Choice Diaz. I interviewed him on Thursday. It's up in the members section. Now, big news we got going on. This was all the stuff I was going to talk about in the after show, but now I got to do it now. Okay, but what are you going to do? Daniel Hopsicker is an older statesman. He's like I said, I think he deserves a Pulitzer Prize. And whatever time we can get him forward, he does me a favor to come on here at the last minute. I thank him for that. I did a show this week about John Benet Ramsey, okay, Melinda Kula, and she has an alternate theory of who killed John Benet Ramsey. And I got to tell you, I listened to her, and she's not very publicized. Whatever, her story is not out there. As a matter of fact, after she did my show, now she's going on a whole world tour. People are pulling him onto her show. Now, this is someone from. Normally, I expected when we have somebody on Friday Night Live, I expect that they're going to get hit with a bunch of interview requests all over the place, and they get booked. For the next month, I see them booked everywhere. But now this is something new that even in the members section, I guess some of these other hosts, they've subscribed to my members section, and now they're hitting up my guests from the members section. So anyway, I had this woman on. No one had her before. No one's heard of her before. I stumble upon her with my keen eye for news, my hound dog news, my news hound knows, hound dog knows, whatever I'm trying to say. News hound dog, whatever, knows. Take those four phrases and jumble them up and put them together for yourself. But I spotted this woman. She had her own theory. I looked at her website. It was very interesting. While she's on the show, I'll give you a little bit of a rundown of she has an alternative suspect, a guy who lives in Jersey. She saw him wearing those Tech 9 boots. They were brand new. His last name is Ramsey. Okay, and he was born in the Philippines right around the time Ramsey was stationed down there in the Subic Bay Training Center. And if you might remember, it says at the bottom of the ransom note, SBCT, Victory. Subic Bay Training Center in Victory. And this guy was talking about a very strange character. And he, right before that Christmas, he was talking about how he was just going to go pick up $118,000. And that he was getting this amount of money, a big stipend every year. So from a source, an inheritance, I think he called it. So anyway, my guest has a sample of his handwriting. She has an application that he filled out. What do you call it, for the self-defense course that he was taking. And when I heard this, I said, well, have you ever taken it had a professional do the handwriting examination for it? So I contacted the president of the Documents Examination Board, one of the boards. There's always several in these kind of cases. And he's willing to come down and examine these documents for us. And also, too, it turns out, just by coincidence, previously he had examined the JonBenet Ramsey ransom note for NBC Dateline. So we got a hold of the top expert, one of the top experts in the country. He's the president of the Handwriting Expert Association there. I don't have any of these notes in front of me, so I'm kind of winging it, guys. And he's going to examine it. Once we get a hold of these documents in my hands, I'm going to turn it over to him. And who knows, guys, we could break the JonBenet Ramsey case if this handwriting matches. Now, there's been some amateur work done on this comparison to the handwriting, and they claim that they feel it's a match. And even some people who were police officers and involved in crime scene investigations have examined the handwriting samples, and they believe that there's a match there. So let's see what we come up with there, right, guys? So anyway, Anthony Choice Diaz, we interviewed him, and then we interviewed Melinda Kula about her theory about who killed JonBenet Ramsey. Oh, we got a commercial break coming up. Let's do it right now. I'll take a drink of water, because you know what, man? I'm still on that Daniel fast, so I usually like to have a beer while I'm doing the show, but although I can't do it now while I'm doing this Daniel fast, but I'll get through it. We'll be right back after these messages. And now a word from our sponsors. Pacific West Bamboo, your premier source for sustainable building material. They provide construction-grade and craft-grade bamboo material for all your indoor, outdoor, and gardening needs. Contact them for event planning and display building as well. 503-839-8126. Or you go to their new website, pacificwestbamboo.com. Or you can contact them on Facebook at Pacific West Bamboo. That's 503-839-8126. Amanda from Pacific West Bamboo was our first sponsor. She's been so good to us, so please support her in return. I want to make everybody aware of our new members section at www.oppermanreport.com. You can go there and sign up for a monthly, quarterly, or yearly subscription. You can even purchase episodes one by one. You get full access to brand new original content, new guests, new uncensored interviews, my own investigations and reports, and we're going to be adding sections with documents, images, police reports, either provided by myself or by my guests, or for my own investigations, my own reports. So you can go to oppermanreport.com and you can sign up there tonight. You can start listening tonight. Strawman. I want to mention Strawman. Strawman is a band out of Toronto, Canada. They're good friends of the Opperman Report. They're a trio of guys who share the same mindset most of us here do, and they put that energy into their words and music. So check them out at strawmanmusic.com and drop them a line to let them know that you heard them here on the Opperman Report. We'll be doing an interview with Sean Duffy soon. You can get an autographed copy of my book, How to Succeed as a Private Investigator, by visiting my PI website, emailrevealer.com. We also offer a computer and cell phone forensics. We can recover deleted text messages to uncover infidelity. We offer asset searches, locates, email tracing, background reports, and we can even trace your spouse's email address back to internet dating websites to catch them cheating online. You can reach us at 800-572-9762, or you can email me at emailrevealer@aol.com. New World Mexican Women. Everyone loves the New World Mexican Women. and their line of fine, handcrafted, authentic Mexican jewelry of stone mosaic and Abilene stone inlay. In their first book, titled New World Mexican Women, available on lulu.com, they teach you how to make this jewelry, and they have a collection of love letters to their men from their hometown that have immigrated to the United States to find work. They have also published a new book entitled Azuquina to the Rodeo. It's about a young girl that falls in love with a rodeo bull rider, and she runs away with him without telling her family. You can find the New World Mexican Women by Googling New World Mexican Women. And you can ask them about their deals on wholesaling their fine jewelry and all of the other projects that they have going on. If you'd like to have your business or website advertised here and promoted all over the world on dozens of stations every day, give us a call at 800-572-9762 or email oppermanreport@gmail.com. And now back to our show. Welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. The show is brought to you by Audible.com. Go to audibletrial.com/Opperman Report. Get yourself a free audiobook. By the way, hey, OppermanReport.com has a new bookstore. All of our guest books are available in the new bookstore on OppermanReport.com. And so you go there, you can see any of our guests that's ever written a book. They're all going to be up there. Most of them are up there now. I got to make a list for Sean, who's helping out. Sean Duff from the band Strawman. He's got a new single coming out called Bones, coming out September 1st. And on September 4th, he has a gig coming up in downtown Toronto. It's not in front of me, but it's in downtown Toronto on September 4th. You can go to his website, strawmanmusic.com, and you can find that. Let me just clarify what's going on with the John Benet Ramsey story. My guest, Melinda Kula, lived in New Jersey. In New Jersey, she was at this self-defense school because she took her kids to take self-defense classes. Plus, her husband was taking self-defense classes to lose weight. He's a big, giant guy. He's like 300 pounds. There was a character there at this self-defense school that looked just like Charlie Manson kind of character type. And he gave her the creeps right away. And like I said, right before the John Benet Ramsey murders, this guy's name was Bill Ramsey. And he was Filipino. And he grew up in the Subic Bay, I guess, naval base down there where the Subic Bay training camp is, where John Ramsey was stationed. So she feels that this is John Ramsey's illegitimate son, who came up, found his father, and was getting money from him every Christmas, once a year. And he went there to pick up his money and whatever. If somehow it happened, he killed John Benet. That part we don't know for sure. But the evidence she has is that he mentioned he was going to go pick up $118,000. This is before the murder. He was wearing those high-tech shoes, and his last name was Ramsey. When he came back, he changed his name from Ramsey, and he said, "Don't ever call me Ramsey again." He had a different name. There's a couple other little minor things that connected. And he had an arrest down there in New Jersey for something. We don't know if he was convicted or not, because there's been very little real investigation done on this. What do you call it? No one's run any criminal background checks on this guy. No one's looked for that. No one's done any handwriting samples. There's a couple other things that I suggested that they do too as well. Also too, the guy was involved with somehow he had access to a bunch of leftover stun guns from like a surplus from one of these police depots or something like that. Very interesting show. Listen, if you really want to find out what's going on, you got to go to OperaReport.com, sign up for the member section, because that's a great show. And like I said, right now I found a certified forensic examiner who's going to examine these documents, who's going to look at the... and we're doing this for real, too. I'm getting a real high-resolution copy of the ransom note, and we're getting this evidence. We're going to compare it all there. He's going to put out a real report that you can use in court. This is real work we're doing here. So you want to support that, go to OperamanReport.com. You sign up to the members section, and it really, really helps. And you know what? Today, out of the blue, I got a donation. Someone sent in a donation. We haven't gotten one in so long. You have no idea how encouraging that is. Especially when I got 3 clients right now. I got 3 cases I'm working on for my work. That I work a full-time job, more than full-time. I work more than 10 hours a day as a private investigator and a digital forensic investigator. Got 3 clients right now. 2 of them are definitely going to court, going to trial. So that I'm working on, all day long. And and when I'm trying to, it's important stuff that I got to do. And I'm taking time away from that to work on the radio show. Especially today was a hectic day with one guest, fell out, and I was trying to scramble around, find another guest real quick. Donation comes in, it feels good because like I'm not spinning my wheels here. But this John Benet Ramsey investigation, if you want to support that, go there and you either can buy the show for $2. It'll download the show there for $2, or you can become a member for $6 a month. Thursday, I guess it was. Let me think. I did an interview. I was interviewed by Pierce Redmond, who's a brilliant guy. He's from Brooklyn, New York. And he's partners with Tom Secker. And he interviewed me about Jeffrey Epstein. And I got to tell you, this was absolutely, with no comparison, the best interview that I've ever been interviewed, or that I've ever interviewed anybody. Any interview that I've ever been involved with about Jeffrey Epstein, this was absolutely the best. This guy did all his homework. He knew his stuff. He was prompting me at the right places. It was great pace. Excellent interview. And I would even go as far as to say that if you listen to any other shows on YouTube, at least, that are available about the Jeffrey Epstein case, this is by far the most detailed and has the best information and covers. And I even learned a bunch of new stuff during this interview that I have not heard before. That's also up there on the OperamanReport.com member section. You can either download it for $2, or you can pick it up there, become a member, and do it that way. Okay, let's see. You can call in 702-605-4894. 702-605-4894. Is that the number for 4894? Is that the number? Is that our number? I don't even remember. Let me see if I can find it on because I'm tired, man. I do way too much work. So, let's see. 702-605-4894. That is the number. Yeah. Oh, my God. I got my home phone number on there, too. What the hell am I doing here? Let me get rid of that. Anyway. Daniel fast. This will be 3 weeks, my friends. Sunday will be 21 days that I've been on this Daniel fast. You can look that up if you just Google Daniel fast. Me and Vic are both doing it. It's a spiritual fast that you can find in the Bible. No meat, no sugar, no coffee, no beer, no wine, no bread, no like processed foods, no eggs, no milk. So all you can really have is water. We make smoothies, with fruit and water. Coconut milk we drink. And we do black bean soup. We make a lot of black bean soup and potatoes. Stir fry. We do stir fry with brown rice. You can have brown rice. So anyway, we've been doing this now it'll be 21 days on Sunday. And also, too, we found a new church, so we got to walk a little further to get to church on Sundays, too. And also, too, school started. So, we got to walk back and forth to school, too. So, me and Vic, man, we're in great shape right now. You got to see us, man. I have not looked this good, man. I can fit into, summer clothes from, 2 summers ago, before all this custody stuff came up. And because when all that stuff happened, man, I put on a ton of weight, man. I got real fat. It was disgusting. Because when I got divorced back in 2005, I lost 70 pounds. You can see the old pictures of me on Facebook. I got an old picture of me with Dr. Henry Lee. I met him at the PI convention here in Las Vegas. I think it was 2004. And so I was a big fat slob. You should have seen me. I look younger now than I do then. You know, even though my hair was like jet black, will comb straight back. You know, but I was big and fat. Oh my God, and there's big rolls in my neck. So anyway, so when I got divorced, I lost 70 pounds. I got into yoga, and I was pretty much vegetarian, you know, at the time for a long, long time. I was doing all these push-ups. I went crazy doing push-ups. I could do 80 push-ups without stopping. So I would do push-ups all day long. I would just stop and go down and do like 80 push-ups or 60 push-ups, 70 push-ups, like 10, 15 times a day. It was insane. And I was really strong. I was doing all these chin-ups too, man. I could just climb up a pole and stuff. I was really, really strong. I'd love to get back in that kind of shape again. So anyway, maybe we could, you know, because now we're doing this Daniel fast now. I definitely dropped a good 20 pounds in the past 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks now. And I'm fitting into clothes I haven't fit into in 2 summers. And but, you know, we don't have that much chance to get out and really exercise that much. And I kind of strained. I got a, what do you call it? I got the little, like shin splints, you know, I guess from all the walking and stuff we're doing. So I got a little ace bandage wrapped around my foot. So we're doing this 21 days, and then 21 days on Sunday, and then we got the 3 more days because you have to do it for 24 days. And we have been having great, all kinds of great little miracles and blessings in our lives, stuff you wouldn't believe. You know, things are going good. You know, things are going really, really good. You know, as a matter of fact, you know, since we put up the YouTube Ed Opperman YouTube channel on the top of the Opperman Report blog, Opperman Report website, we're almost back up there. It's like 1,000, you know, or 1,100, and we only need to be 1,000 so we get all the features for YouTube. 1,000 subscribers, and once you hit 1,000 subscribers, then it unlocks a lot of features that YouTube has that we were utilizing before, and that when the old channel got shut down, we weren't able to utilize the new ones. And also, too, we picked up so many followers on Spreaker, on Spreaker.com. As a matter of fact, it's kind of interesting because I had to call up. I had a little incident with Spreaker, too. They were trying to get the Spreaker channel shut down, so I had to get in touch with the owners of Spreaker. And when I was talking to them, because I had to get some more information from them about something. And I was talking to them, and they said, "Oh boy, you know, that's a lot of followers. It's, you know, you must be an advertiser." And I says, "No, we don't advertise at all." That's what he's over. And I found out that all these other shows that you see on Spreaker that have all these followers and have all these plays, it's because they pay Spreaker to promote their shows. I don't want to, but I'll mention a couple of them. But people like Mark Levin and you know, some other people that are in our little area too that you might recognize their names in these kind of stations. They pay, what do you call it? They pay Spreaker to promote their shows on the front page, and we've never done that. And we have many, if not more, followers and plays than they do. So as far as that going, we definitely are building an audience. I'm not worried about that. We're getting picked up now on 3 more internet stations in the next week, next 2 weeks, let's say. And they're both all very significant level stations, equal to or more than all the stations we're on right now. So they're definitely not fly-by-night stations. These are all solid stations. And then I have that opportunity. The show's been accepted not only by that big station in Arizona. If we could somehow get on that would be great, man. That would be a huge move for us because it covers the whole state of Arizona. But for that, we need sponsors. So I would give you guys, you know, if we could find a sponsor out there, if you know somebody, or if you want to sell ads, you're looking to make some money on the side, you want to sell sponsorships, get a hold of me because we can definitely get that moving there. Anyway, 702-605-4894 if you want to call in with some questions or anything like that. Did a whole show last week on Ashley Madison. Oh, I got a funny story for you. Okay, we did that show about Ashley Madison, the Ashley Madison hack, and I was talking about how, you know, I've been doing that for years, not hacking, but how I've been catching people cheating online on Ashley Madison for years. So I put out a press release because I see all these shows, these new shows about Ashley Madison. I said, hey, I want to get on there, right? So I'm getting booked on it's a morning zoo type show, right? And I'm talking to their producer, right? And she says to me, you have to be careful when you come on the show that you don't sound like you support Ashley Madison or that, you think it's okay for people to cheat, because we'll get so many phone calls and emails and everybody gets so upset. She goes, you know how stupid the audience is, right? And I says, whoa. I says, you know how stupid the audience is? I says, no. I says, my audience is really smart. I says, I got a really smart audience. Are you kidding? And so I guess it's because it's a morning zoo show. They got a bunch of dunces listening to their show. But I got to tell you, you guys have no idea the emails that I get from the audience, from the listeners to the show, suggestions, research that they've done, work that they've done. Really incredible. And it never dawned on me to ever say that our audience is stupid. We got a great audience, man, of really brilliant people. And I think, I wish they would call us. They would call in, 702-605-4894. But we have great listeners, man, because I get emails from you guys, just incredible stuff. I ask for show suggestions, and we get emails, elaborate stuff. People do a lot of work, man, to locate. Also, too, when you make a show suggestion or a guest suggestion, try and, if you can help me out, if you can make the effort to find their contact information, too, when you send it to me. And you send it to oppermanreport@gmail.com. Because that's a big, big help, too. Because a lot of times, I'll get a suggestion, and I'll say, oh, boy, that's great, but then it's going to take me 2-3 hours to find this guest. By the way, that reminds me, another guest we have coming up is the daughter of Malcolm X. I got her lined up. She's definitely willing to come on. Fascinating woman, by the way, too. Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Wait a second. I got something I want to talk about. Maybe I should save this for the after show, because I think I can talk about this for a couple hours. Let me make a little note, and maybe we will do an after show, okay? But if you guys want to call in, 702-605-4894, I would like that too as well. Melvin Dumar, we have him coming up. Now, that's going to be a good show because, here we go. He's the guy that gave Howard Hughes a ride in the desert, and then he found there was a will where Howard Hughes left him a bunch of money, $100 million, whatever it was. And there's been some work on that recently. What do you call it? There's been some new investigative work on that done by an ex-FBI agent who's confirmed some information that Dumar came up with. Who knows? That whole will could come back out again. So let's see. What else? Who else do we have coming on? Oh, I have that guest that was in the Branch Davidian when they burned it down. He said he's willing to come on. We just got to find a date. I got a couple of new local Las Vegas producers that are going to be helping me out with the show, helping me book these guests, and help me schedule these guests, because I've been making a mess out of scheduling the guests. I'll tell you that right now. And also, too, helping me get booked on other shows, too. So I'm going to be doing a lot more appearances on other shows as well. Again, just trying to get the member section built up that we can get all this other work done. I also have the local film school here is willing to help out with the documentary films that I want to start doing. I just got to put a pitch together for them. And I also have, I got a phone call coming in. Let's see who it is here. Area code 646. Area code 646. You're on the air.
Hi, Ed. It's Kirsten. How are you?
Hey, Kirsten. How are you? What's up?
Well, I have some Damien Eccles news from New York.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. Shoot.
So he is speaking at the Rubin Museum, which is like a newer museum. And it has a kind of, it's a big collection of like Eastern art. And he is speaking with a Buddhist priest, which I think might be in my view, maybe the most offensive of his appearances. So, I wrote the museum and I was like, first of all, in the description, they described him as an exoneree and they described him as wrongfully convicted. and I pointed out that neither of those things were, true. And it's part of a series about karma.
Right.
And so I wrote this letter thinking I'd never hear an answer. I got this long kind of about how he can really inform the community of all this, enlighten us. And I was like, well, the guy's a triple child killer. How is this, is this really a good thing for the community to, give this guy a platform and to, they're charging I think around $24 for it. And it's been just an epic back and forth. Actually, you can read it.
I did read it. I read it. William Ramsey posted it.
Yeah, I gave it to him because I was just you can't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. It's just really? He's well, this will be a good thing for the community to be spiritually enlightened by this triple child killer. Could you believe that stuff?
Well, he did say something in his response to you that he was going to go back and change something that was factually inaccurate by describing him as an exoneree.
He did.
Oh, he did change it.
They took off exoneree and they took off wrongfully convicted. That was my small. I'm still losing the war.
Victory. Yeah.
That was my small battle that I won.
Well, what about now? One thing that always strikes me though, because listen, I can understand people want to debate the guilt about the child murders, even though he confessed and he pled guilty and he was convicted. Okay, so they still want to beat that dead horse. But what about the dog he beat to death? No one denies that. There was an eyewitness. His parents said there were dog skulls hanging from the clotheslines. There was cat skulls hanging from. No one denies that. And what about this?
Right.
Why don't you ask this karma guy?
I put that actually in my first letter, just to hoping that I was trying to hit all angles.
Yeah.
So hopefully something would stick. I was really hoping that I could, hoping that maybe they'd cancel this because it's so. I mean, it's not just a book. To me, it's more offensive because it's. He has a priest, a Buddhist priest there, and it's a museum, which is kind of a resource of the community. So I don't know. I find this one more offensive than maybe some of the other appearances. And his answer that a child killer has so much to teach us about karma, and I'm well, if he said he didn't do anything, so is he really at a place to reflect about his crime? And then he wrote me back saying something about wrongful accusations, and I'm sure he's not talking about Mark Byers or
Hobbs,
the other one.
Terry Hobbs.
Yeah, Hobbs. Yeah, I'm sure he's not talking about that. I'm sure he's talking about Damien Eccles being wrongfully confused. So, I don't know. I'm just hoping, maybe other people can, if there's enough pressure that maybe, I don't know, maybe they'll cancel it.
Do you have the email address?
Yeah, the email address is programming@RubinMuseum.com. Is it Rubin or Rubin Museum? Hold on, let me check. But you can, if you just look up Rubin Museum, it'll give it in the contacts. There's a lot of it, but the one you want is the programming, the people who pick the programming. I don't know. That's basically what I have to say.
Okay. Well, yeah, I know. I read all that, and it is a shame that Eccles is such a freaking mess, and so many people just fall for his lie. And we're down to the last 4 minutes of this part of the show, and then everyone who's listening on Spreaker, I'm going to stop the Spreaker and we're going to restart it again, so I can edit it for the stations that carry this this show during the week. Any other? Now you're
programming at RubinMuseum.org.
Programming,
and not to mention the hugest lie that he's a Buddhist too.
Yeah.
I kept thinking of you. .org. I got him. You know what I mean? That's the biggest lie, to have him on with as if he's a fellow Buddhist, when we all know he's an OTO, member.
Well, I've talked to some OTO people, and they say that's not a problem. You can be both a Buddhist and OTO at the same time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
That's what they tell me.
I know that you study all. I know that in that that Crowley believed that all religions were connected and you study all.
Right.
But that was my understanding, that your affiliation is really to but you probably know more about it than I do. But in my head, reading all this Buddhist mumbo jumbo, I hear you in the back of my head going, "But he's a Buddhist, right?"
Now you found the show because you were a follower of the West Memphis Three, or just a coincidence?
Oh no, I don't know. You do so many topics that I'm interested in, not just that one.
Well, that was the first
I
show.
can't remember how I found it.
Yeah, the first show we ever did was about the West Memphis Three.
It might have been.
Yeah, and that show got like 40,000 views on YouTube. And then on Rev Radio they had it on there too, and it was on my old YouTube channel, so it got like another 40,000 combined on all those channels as well. So that was a really, really popular show. Even though the audio was so bad, it was horrible.
They're definitely some of my favorite shows that you've done.
Well, we got listen. We're gonna say goodnight to PSN Radio in a minute, and that's pretty much the only station we drop now because Talk Superstation went out of business. Not out of business, but good old Diamond Joe shut down his station there. So the only other station we're on. Okay. Well, we might as well drop PSN right now anyway because whatever's going on there, the sound is really, really bad over there. So we'll say goodnight to PSN, and we'll see you guys next week. And then I'm going to restart over there at Spreaker, and I'm going to shut that off there. Okay, and then we'll come back. I want to talk a little bit about Jared Fogle. You can call back in. You can stay on the line, as a matter of fact. You don't have to hang up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that Jared Fogle story.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a couple of new... they knew about that since 2008. Did you know that?
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah. Okay, so let's restart all this. And so, Awake, I'm going to take some messages here. We'll be right back after these messages. Let's see here. Okay, that's done with that. Okay.